is Brian Craig, and this is where MAGA comes to talk. Welcome, one and all. And we've got so much to cover on the stream today. Of course, we'll be taking your live calls. And there's a couple of big issues that we're going to discuss, of course. The Biden racket that he's running right now, and the Bongino Kash Patel interview on Fox. These are the super big issues we got to talk about today, no doubt about it. And they're both important issues, no question. Hey guys, welcome one and all. Okay. Always have to check the phone. Make sure I've turned the phone on with the toll-free number. Oh yeah, one more thing I got to do. Oh, welcome, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, I'm going to start in the beginning when we go. We'll be live in about 12 minutes. When we go live, I'm going to start with the Biden story. But then after that, I'm going to get in, and we'll take calls on it. And after that, I'm going to get into the Bongino Kash Patel interview on Fox yesterday, because people are really upset about it. And the more I think about it, the more upset I am. And I think we've all got good reason to be upset. Test 1, 2. I would start with the Bongino Kash Patel interview, but the Biden story is the top story today. So I got to lead with that, but I'm going to get right into the... There's not so much to say about the Biden story. But that interview, that's another story. MAGA for life, that's right. MAGA for life. Yes, the Yankees are the good guys. The Yankees were the ones opposing and fighting to end the Democrat slavery, yes. Yankees are good guys. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Absolutely. Now, the number pinned in the chat is the number to call in. When we go live in less than 10 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, you can call that number and you'll be right on the air. Mm-hmm. Hello to everyone. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. USA is number one, Michael. There's no doubt about that. Best country in the world, by far. It's not even a close second in the world. Mm-hmm. We'll be live in about 7 or 8 minutes. What country even comes close to equaling the greatness of the United States? There isn't one. There is not a single country even close. Mm-mm. Roy, welcome. Good morning. The United States is the greatest in everything that's good about a country. No one comes close. Mm-hmm. Okay. That is true, Billy. Educate themselves. MAGA's the way. Welcome. If you're new, we're going to be live on the radio in about 5 minutes. I'm just waiting to go live on the air. Then I'm going to start the show and my other stream. Yeah, this is one of my favorite MAGA hats. This is the one. Trump has seen this hat, I don't know, 7 or 8 times in person, up close, like as close as I am to the camera. So it's an old MAGA hat, but it's got Trump. Trump has viewed it with his own eyes, so I always feel smarter with this hat on. I call it the hat of wisdom. Some of Trump's brains were transmitted. Okay, let's see. Okay. 4 minutes. We'll be live in 4 minutes. Ugh. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, guys. Test 1, 2. Three minutes. All right, guys. Okay, about 1 minute. Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian. This is where MAGA comes to talk. We got a couple of big issues to cover. And I'm going to lead with the Biden story. But the big story, that's what everybody thinks is the big story today. But there's another one, which I'll get to in a few minutes. All right, we'll be live in about 10 seconds. If you're on hold, hang in there. Welcome to the program, everyone. My name is Brian Craig. You are listening to Florida's longest running radio show, The Steve Kane Show. on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. And oh boy, we got a lot to cover today, all right? I'm going to start this morning talking about the Biden prostate diagnosis. And then there's another story that would have been my lead story if it wasn't for this story. And I want to take your calls on all of this. So, and the second story is the Kash Patel, Dan Bongino interview with Bartiromo on Fox News yesterday. And we're going to talk about that coming up. But I want to talk here in the beginning about the Biden prostate cancer. Now, you know, if you have followed Biden, there has not been a president of the United States in my lifetime that is as corrupt as Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden is like the textbook definition of corruption. You know his history. He and his wife, these are, what did Bush call people? Evil doers. They are evil doers. There's no question about it. And if you followed Biden throughout his career, anytime he's called out on anything, like to be held accountable, he always goes to this sympathy card. Now, what he goes for sympathy on changes over the years, right? And he, for some reason, thinks that if he brings out some sad story, that people are going to feel sorry for him. Now, with all that being said, we do wish him well in recovery from his prostate cancer. You know, we want to see all Americans recover from their prostate cancer and do well. But with that saying, this sympathy card that Biden's playing is ridiculous. I mean, even Brian Stelter's calling this out on CNN. To look at this story, and if you're on hold, hang in there, because we've got a lot to cover. I will get to the phones in just a bit. If you look at Biden, all right, and what's happened to him in the last year and a half, he feels completely betrayed by the entire Washington establishment. And one thing that's difficult to do for a lot of people, or people don't take the time to do this, when I'm talking or dealing or analyzing these people, I try to think about things from their perspective. This scummy, senile old coot, Joe Biden, who's corrupt as the day is long, does not think he's an evildoer. Joe Biden thinks he is the best father and husband to ever live. And I know that's a hard thing for a lot of people to put their minds around, but these lunatic, insane criminals and corrupt public officials all think they're great American patriots, like Joe Biden does. Do you think Comey thinks he did anything wrong or is a bad dude? No. He thinks he's an American patriot. The Clintons, Hillary Clinton doesn't think of herself as some old lady who's corrupt. She sees herself as a great feminist icon and role model to women and girls everywhere. And I know that sounds crazy. It is crazy, and these people are completely crazy. So Joe Biden thinks he's the greatest husband and father who's ever lived. He actually believes that. And everything he's done is for his family. Yeah, just like Mackie in The Shield, right? It was all for his family. So you have to look at it from that perspective to have any real discussion of what Biden's doing here. So when Biden's up against the ropes, he plays this sympathy card. And I've known guys like this my whole life, like Joe Biden, that just crack me up. I've never seen it at the level of Joe Biden. Usually, I've seen it with guys I've known my entire life, some of them as old as me today. They get broken up by in a relationship, right? Their girlfriend or wife leaves them. They get a new girlfriend, and all they do is whine about the last girlfriend, right? You ever know any guys like that? I bet you women have. And there's a lot of men like Joe Biden who think people care about them like you're their mommy. So he always plays this sympathy card to try to make mommy feel sorry for him. But, and what he's done in the past, mostly, what he's most well known for, anytime he's up against the ropes, he talks about the tragic death of his son, Bo, right? And he starts talking about Bo, and when he talks about Bo, you're supposed to feel sorry for him. Now this prostate cancer, this aggressive advanced prostate cancer diagnosis, this was the week that, the Tapper book's coming out. CNN has become almost completely a 24-hour cable news network dedicated to talking about the cognitive decline, senility, and Alzheimer's of Joe Biden. The Justice Department is investigating the auto pen. And of course, over the weekend, the audio of that deposition came out when he didn't even know he was president. I mean, that was just, So the Bidens, Joe and Jill, came out with this prostate cancer story to try to stop all these people from going after him and thinking the American people will have sympathy for him because, after all, he's America's dad, America's husband, America's grandpa. And you're going to feel sorry for him today like you're his mommy. And it's so obvious. The story isn't whether or not he has prostate cancer or not at this advanced stage. When you are 80 and above, I was shocked to learn this a number of years ago, but about 80 to 85% of men who live into their 80s have prostate cancer when they die. Now, that doesn't mean that they've died of prostate cancer, but pretty much every man, if he gets to the age of 80, has some stage of prostate cancer. Isn't that crazy? And they know this from autopsy. It doesn't mean that they were even treating the prostate cancer. Doesn't mean it killed them or made them sick. But for men, part of growing old is your 80, 85% chance you're going to die with prostate cancer in your body if you live above the age of 80. So for someone Joe Biden's age having prostate cancer, they all pretty much assume any man who's 80 or above that has a prostate has it. Okay? I mean, that you just got to assume because most of them do. But he's obviously trying to stop this exposure of him. And it's not going to work. In fact, the timing of it is going to make it worse. And I know people are talking about, well, did his doctors in the White House miss this? If he were still president, would we have known? Would they have ever told us and all that? And I understand those questions, but that's not the issue here. He's trying to save his legacy. He's trying to stop this talk about his cognitive decline, his senility. He's trying to stop people from going after his, I'm of the opinion that Jill Biden is the auto pen person, okay? Jill Biden was running this country the last 4 years directly at the White House. I know there's others, and there was a committee, and Obama had a role, but she was the one there with Joe with access to the auto pen. So he's trying to save his reputation, his legacy, and his wife and family, okay? That's why this is coming out right now, and it is so obvious. Everyone knows this. Now, your thoughts on that certainly are welcome, but of course, we do wish Joe Biden a recovery from the prostate cancer and hope that he responds to treatment and it's taken care of because we don't want him suffering from the prostate cancer. However, people are not going to, we're not your mommy, and we're not going to forget about your crimes, your corruption, your senility, and all this stuff. And we're not going to forget about who had that auto pen and illegally pardoned people and illegally did all kinds of things, including possibly illegally ordered military action. Those things are not going to be forgotten just because you've got the prostate cancer. We all have problems. We all have issues. We all have health issues in our families. And I've just never seen somebody that wants to cry to mommy all the time as much as Joe Biden. So that's that. And your thoughts on that topic are welcome at 1-888-465-2631. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. After the first break, I may take some calls, but I'm going to get into this Kash Patel, Dan Bongino interview with Bartiromo on Fox over the weekend, which is causing all kinds of problems for Bongino, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi. And we're going to break that down and talk about it and take your calls on that as well. Our number is toll-free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. It's a toll-free call no matter where you're listening. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. We'll be right back. Man, oh man. No, there's people on hold. Just because there's calls on hold doesn't mean I'm going to interrupt what I'm doing to go to those calls. Still got to run a show. Okay. I'll take some calls before I get into the Bongino stuff. So if you're on hold, stand by. We'll be back in just under 2 minutes. About 90 seconds. If you're on hold, hang in there. I'll take the calls to the best of my ability in the order in which they were received. Less than a minute. We'll be back. "30 seconds. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, guys. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. You're listening to the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. I'm just going to go to the phones. We're first talking about Biden's desperate attempt to get sympathy from the American people and the media. And I'm going to take these calls in the order in which they were received. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Dr. Ken from Jupiter.
Hey, Dr. Ken, what's up?
People in the media.
Yep, go ahead, Doc.
How are you? Thanks for taking my call.
Well, okay. What's on your mind?
I'm having a little trouble hearing you, but anyhow, I have a comment on Joe Biden and the Democrats, and then if there's time at the end, I just wanted to make a brief comment about Maria's interview with Dan Bongino and Patel yesterday. And I'm by no means going to bat for Joe Biden, so I want to say that from the outset. But I don't think much of what happened during the presidency that precedes this one had much to do with Joe. And I think what happened was this. The Democrats, after spending an inordinate amount of time doing everything they could to try to get Trump impeached, rather than doing their job for the American public during his first presidency, and then failing, they then went all out to find a name that could beat Trump. That's all they cared about. Okay, so if you remember, I know you will remember this. Most people may not, because I've talked to a number of people, and people seem to forget this. Fast forward to the Democratic primary leading into the 2020 election. So you had Amy Klobuchar, you had Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Andrew Yang, I think Mayor Pete. And out of the gate, like Secretariat, came Bernie Sanders. He was storming. He took Iowa going away.
All right, we got a lot. Hey, Doc, we got a lot going on, so you got to kind of cut to the chase.
Okay. So anyhow, Biden suddenly won South Carolina. Bernie Sanders went away. You never heard from him. I was like, if this is fixed, they could have done a better job and let Bernie win a couple other states. I don't know, but nonetheless, I looked at Joe Biden, and I'm a doctor. I mean, I looked under the hood of your car. I don't know what I'm looking at, but I know medicine, and he was checked out from the beginning.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he probably got worse as his term went on, but I said he can't be a guy who's going to be able to run this government.
Well, I'll tell you about that. That's why they picked him. Okay, they thought they could control him. They wanted somebody who was out of it, they could control, who's corrupt and out of it.
Yeah.
And they didn't count on Jill Biden's lust for power and the auto pen. Because they didn't cooperate.
What was the last thing you said?
And the auto pen that Joe Biden was running the country with. Things didn't go according to plan for the Democrats. They couldn't control Biden. Yeah, but so moving on to 2025, what do you have to say about the issues of today?
Okay, so I guess a brief comment on that interview yesterday, which was spectacular, I thought. These two guys they're in a class by themselves, Bongino and Kash Patel. The one thing I want to say to everybody, especially the Republicans, because we are now reaping the benefits of this election. I mean, I've been pumping my fist since November 5th, is that we have all this great stuff happening. And the one thing I want to urge people is one word, patience. With not just with the economy, you can close the border overnight, and Trump did that. But, economics take time, and, Dan Bongino said it. He said, we could...
the thing about the interview, I'm going to, after the bottom of the hour, I'm going to go through the interview. But the problem with the interview is it's caused them a lot of problems with MAGA people. But, Doc, I'm going to move on. I appreciate the call. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, hi. Good morning, Brian. This is Danielle from Michigan.
Hey, Danielle.
Hey, good morning. Just a really quick comment. In regards to the health, I'm just going to ditto what President Trump and our beautiful First Lady, I'm going to ditto their comment. Then I'm going to move on. We've got some real serious issues that are coming down the pike and things that are going to be revealed in regards to Patel, Bongino, and this auto pen situation. Pretty serious stuff. Pretty shocking yesterday with the health, obviously, but let's move on from that and kind of get to. I'm gonna disagree with something that you said in the past.
Okay.
And this is just my own comment. This is my own. I really really do think that 2020 is going to be adjudicated. I really do think that they're going to.
I don't know why everybody's, listen. I don't know if why we're talking about 5 years ago. We've got big issues going on today. And I'd rather talk about what's going on today, not 5 years ago.
I understand that.
That's why I let the doc go.
I totally understand. I just think that everything that's going to come out and everything that's...
All right. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. So she's going to go back to it. Oh, my goodness. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, I'm Gail, and I'm from Missouri.
All right, Gail, what's on your mind?
The auto pin, does it actually have a time and date stamp that goes along with it?
We really don't know. They've not shown us the modern auto pin to the public, so we don't really know how it operates.
Okay, well, my question is, if it's got a date and time stamp to go with the signature, who was around the White House at that time?
Well, my guess is the president doesn't have to be there for them to use the auto pen. They can do it remotely over the phone. But we really don't know. And you ask a good question that I'd like to have the answer to. I'd like to see. All right, appreciate the call. I'd like to see President Trump have Caroline Leavitt show the auto pen and how it works. And what I'm really interested in is the process to access the auto pen. It's the most powerful instrument the most powerful writing instrument ever created, because you can move armies with it, literally, and bomb people with it. So I find it hard to believe it's just something anybody can go and grab and use. There's got to be a process. I'd like to see that process. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, good, Brian. This is Richie.
Yep.
I'm going to, first of all, I have no sympathy whatsoever for this old guy. All I think about, I got to be honest with you, this is like a revenge to me.
All right, Richie, I got to stop you there. I mean, we're not, anytime there's an American who, or a decent, a person that has cancer, we got to wish them well and want them to overcome it. You should know better than that. Don't be stupid. Comment on the whole situation. We want Biden to recover from his cancer. Just, we want the treatment to work. We're talking about why all of a sudden this announcement, and it's pathetic.
Yeah, you're right about the announcement. It is pathetic. And Brian, please give me 1 second. He accused you, me, and every one of us MAGA people in front of Constitution Hall with red lights and the Marines in back of them like a devil that we were all anti-American.
That's correct.
I hope he recovers, so he can face the music and listen to his legacy get destroyed. That's why I want him to recover.
Yeah.
But you tell me that I should have sympathy. I don't. Maybe that's because you're a very good Christian. But
all right, Richie, we're not gonna go down that path and have a whole morning of calls of sick people saying something stupid like you're desperately trying to say. You know why I'm not letting you talk. You know why I'm not letting you say that. I mean, what's wrong with you?
No, I got it. I want everyone to think, okay, they got, but I don't have. I hope he recovers, but I think this is like, to me, a total smokescreen of what's coming down with what.
It's obviously him trying to get sympathy to stop the talk about his cognitive decline. That's obviously what this is.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 150%. And anyone that thinks, you're going to be, people are going to call you up this morning and say you're awful for talking about him, a man with prostate cancer. But I mean, like you said, everybody that's like my age, you're up 30 times a night.
If you get to the age of 80, chances are you have prostate cancer. Okay, I mean you die. And about 80 to 85% of men die with it that live over 80 years old. Okay, it doesn't mean that you even know it. Most people don't even know they have it. So it's
I'm going to say something to you though that's going to really hit home. You say it's not that important. They had him under medical supervision for a long time. He was the president of the United States, and I believe they knew he had it before. And I think that was the biggest cover-up, that they were going to actually try to get this guy back in the White House knowing he was sick and failing. And it's a big disgrace but a whole Democratic Party and a lot of Republicans who went along with the program.
Well, I'm not so, I do want to find out about the auto pen. The mistake they made, if they would have had him resign, and made Kamala the president, things might have gone a little bit better for them. They still would have lost to Trump, but there's a lot of drama there. But it's obvious, that tape came out of his deposition, the Tapper book. CNN, their entire format has changed to talking about Biden's cognitive health in the last 4 years. And this announcement's obviously to try to stop all that discussion. And it's everybody knows it. It's pathetic.
Absolutely, Brian. I got to tell you, you're right. 150% right. But I hope they still carry on with all these investigations.
Of course they will. It's not going to stop anything. But we wish him well and hope the treatments work. Listen, I got to run. Yeah. Appreciate the call. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian. We'll be right back. Okay. We'll be back in 2 minutes. 2 minutes, we'll be back. Welcome. If you're new, make sure that you subscribe, guys. This is where MAGA comes to talk. I've never liked Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen is so overrated. The only reason he's a big star is because he had that, Born in the USA, which as a liberal, he refers to Asian people as the yellow man in that song. Isn't that racist? Does he still sing that line? But he had a song, Born in the USA. People got excited in the 80s, the Reagan era. But he's always been an overrated, mediocre talent, Bruce Springsteen. Less than mediocre. I've never liked him. And his big hit, I'm on Fire, is a creeper song. Does he still sing that creepy song? We'll be back in about 30 seconds, a little more. He is, I think Bruce Springsteen is a no talent. A no talent. Never liked him. Never liked Bruce Springsteen. Never thought he could sing. He sounds like he's constipated when he sings. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. Callers on hold, stand by. I'm going to take another call or two, and then I'm going to get into the Kash Patel, Dan Bongino interview with Maria Bartiromo on Fox over the weekend. And when I break that down, I do want to hear your calls on that. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Steve Kane Show.
Oh, they got me on. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Brian. This is Bill from Sanford.
Hey, Bill. What's up?
Well, to me, the auto pen should be guarded in a similar fashion as the nuclear code, because that can start a war.
It probably is. It may be. It very well may be.
The affidavits or the procedure that applies to certain subjects that, except for well-wishing from the president and things like that. But there has to be safeguards that you just can't let somebody use that auto pen.
I'm sure there are. I'd like to see them and have it shown on television. Yeah, because the more safeguards there are, the easier it is to bring people to justice.
Well, it just scares me that the abuse that can happen, and that's my comment.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there would be some explanation down the road, even if it has to come from Congress.
Yep, there will be. All right, appreciate the call from Sanford, Florida. Take care. Now, if you're on hold, hang in there. So Dan Bongino and Kash Patel did an interview together, sitting side by side with Bartiromo on Fox yesterday. And when I first saw the interview, I was excited. And then as it sunk in, I was disappointed. And I find that I'm not alone in this. And I'm going to play some of the interview of Bongino with Kash Patel. And then we'll talk about it. And I want to hear your thoughts on it as well. Here's the first clip. Dan Bongino, Kash Patel on Fox Business over the weekend with Bartiromo. Okay, now I want to stop there, and there's more. Okay, that's Kash Patel. And this is, listen, we all love Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, okay? We all love them, okay? If you're MAGA, you love these guys. But this interview is really ticking people off. And the more I listen to it, the more ticked off I get. He just told us on all these big things, the statute of limitations has expired, and they're only going to look into things in which it has not expired, where they can get a criminal case. I don't believe that. And I don't accept that, and I don't buy that. This isn't some crime they did, and it was a one-off, and that was it. There was a long-term criminal conspiracy going on. And perhaps some of it was even treason. Is there a statute of limitation on treason? A lot of what they were doing was an insurrection against the chief executive, the president. What's the statute of limitation on that? And even if the statute of limitations has expired, as I hear him say, Kash Patel, that means they can't investigate it? I don't buy that, because that investigation could turn up some things. But let's just say that the statute of limitation is completely expired. They can still investigate and come out and say, Comey, Strzok, Pelosi, they did this, they did that, they met here and decided on this, and then that happened. These are the crimes they committed. However, the statute of limitations has expired. If it was not, we would be arresting them all and charging them. But this is what they did. They're not doing that. They're not doing that. Let me rewind it and play a little bit more. There's Kash Patel, Bongino with Bartiromo on Fox yesterday. Oh. That means that those other things, he's just said the statute of limitations has expired on these other things, so we're not going to look into that? Is that what Kash Patel's saying? Putting the documents out doesn't do anything. And sending things to Congress, that's where things go to be covered up. You know, I'm very disappointed in these guys. I'm sorry to tell you. A week or two, okay. Well, there's kicking the can down the road a week or two. So I guess we got 2 weeks. I'm talking to MAGA people out there. Are they kicking the can down the road? Are they buying time? You know, there's a lot of pressure being put on Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Pam Bondi for indictments and arrest. And Loomer is putting tremendous pressure on them and is having a lot of impact that they've not done anything. You know, we all love Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. And they've been... Dan Bongino was covering this corruption for 4 years on his show. Kash Patel was doing interview after interview covering on that corruption for 4 years. They know who the bad guys are and what they did. So it's not, I don't care. At first, I don't accept that the statute of limitations has expired on all these things, okay? I don't accept that. Do you? Even if it did, instead of sitting down and doing an interview saying there's going to be a document dump in a week or two through Congress, we want a press conference with a big board behind you detailing the conspiracy. And I don't think that's too much to ask. A lot of people have said that the two of them look scared. Do you think they... So I'm going to play more of the interview after the break, but I want to hear your thoughts. Are you disappointed or satisfied with the Kash Patel Bongino interview? Did they look scared? And if so, who were they scared of? You know, President Trump wants these lawfare people brought to justice. He wants his name cleared, and he wants them off his back because they'll when he's out of office, they're going to continue to harass him and his family for the rest of their lives. He also wants the historical record corrected. So, do they look scared? And who are they scared of? Is it deep state people, or is it Trump putting pressure on them? I'm going to play more of it after the break, but I want to hear your thoughts at 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. You know, I was talking to Ian from Cruise and Travel Depot, who handles all of our MAGA cruises that Steve Kane and I have done. Our next cruise is in March. I'm going to give you Ian's number. You can call him and give you the exact dates. I don't know the exact dates offhand. And it's in March. We're going to Antigua, Nassau, which I haven't been to the Bahamas in so long. I love the Bahamas. We're going to Nassau in the Bahamas. We're going to Antigua, and we're going to the British Virgin Islands on another beautiful celebrity cruise ship. You're all invited. And we've got all new activities on board the ship. Ian and I are already working on those. We're working on our shore excursions, which are going to be spectacular. We've got some things in mind. When we lock them up and make the deals, we'll start announcing them. But this is the 10th year of our Steve Kane, Brian Craig MAGA cruises. This is the 10th anniversary cruise. I cannot believe we've been doing these cruises for a decade, and you are all invited. Call Ian at Cruise and Travel Depot. We have got incredible prices on this. He'll give you pricing over the phone, okay? And a lot of people say, well, why don't you give us the price? Because there's no set price. The price depends on so many factors. The kind of cabin you choose, how many people are with you, where is the cabin. There's so many factors that go into it, and there's also extras. You know, like I get everything. When I'm booked, I make sure that, you know, drinks are included, internet's included, all that stuff. But Ian will give you the price right out the gate on the phone. Join us on our 10th anniversary MAGA cruise. Me, Brian Craig, and Steve Kane. Give Ian at Cruise and Travel Depot a call, 561-244-5779. The earlier you book, the better price you get, too. All you got to do is make a deposit, get that reservation locked in. 561-244-5779. 561-244-5779. That's the direct line to Ian from Cruise and Travel Depot, who, by the way, can help you with all your travel needs, not just our cruise. We'll be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll be back shortly. Awesome. We'll be back in a couple minutes, guys. Welcome. If you're new, make sure you subscribe. If you want to call in, the number is pinned in the live chat, all right? We'll be back in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. No, I mean, I think they did some damage to themselves with MAGA people yesterday. I hope to hear your thoughts on it. I'm going to go to the phones when we get back. The interview was a bad idea. They had nothing to present. All they did in the interview was kick the can down the road. Well, you can rewind, Jeff. If you just tuned in, you can always go to the beginning of the stream. What we're talking about now is the Kash Patel Bongino interview. 1 minute, we'll be back. By the way, did you guys, I don't know if you guys checked it out, but I have made a big format change on the Brian Craig Show podcast. My podcast is on all podcast platforms, okay? You know, all the podcast platforms as an audio version. But yesterday was the first one I did this here on YouTube, but it's now a video podcast. So you can see and hear everything, not just hear. And yesterday was the debut of that. Okay, stand by. All right, we're back. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show. If you're on hold, hang in there. I want to play one more clip from the Bongino Kash Patel interview on Fox with Bartiromo yesterday. This clip has a lot of people upset. This is, listen. Okay, hold on. I want to go. Kash Patel goes on for a while. Let me get to Bongino, and then I'll go to the phones. Hold on, because the part with Bongino is the part that's more relevant, and now I can't find that part, and it's not playing. Okay, well I'll play it again in a few minutes. I'll first take some calls. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Oh, hey, cool. Yeah, man. My name's...
Yeah, go ahead.
My name's Breeze. I'm calling up from Washington.
Breeze? And, that's a strange name.
Yeah, no, I think you're completely right. I've been
there we go.
pretty... Yeah, I know. My mom gave it to me. But, yeah, no, I've been,
I'm on to you.
Really disappointed with Kash and Dan and how they reacted during the interview. I think it might partially be because, neither of them have had, a real job in, 10, 20 years. They've mostly just been selling, dick pills on YouTube.
All right, there we go. First dump of the day. If you're on hold, hang in there while we're waiting for that. And while we're waiting for that, I'll play the... Okay, so this is... First dump of the day. Did you hear what... when I started talking to him, I could tell by his tone. I said, here we go. And then you hear what he said? You're on to me. Yeah, he said, yeah, you're on to me. Oh, my goodness. It's too bad, because I would have liked to have heard what it is he had to say. All right, but let me get back to this. If you're on hold, hang in there while we wait for the delay to rebuild. I'm going to have to play the whole thing. This is Kash first with Bartiromo, then Bongino comes in. Mm. Okay, now he misspoke because D.C. didn't exist during the American Revolution. I think he meant the Civil War, but, whatever. And now he's talking about, what was the FBI doing on January 6th? Okay, now that's good news to get all that information, but he said they're sending it up to Capitol Hill to Congress. I didn't hear the word arrest. Arrested, indictment. I didn't hear anything about arrest. Did you? No. Oh my goodness. Why can't they just tell us? Why is it on its way to Congress? Now Bongino's going to come in. Okay, now before I play more, so assets, not agents. Okay, so what we're going to find out is how many people in that crowd were FBI informants, right? You know, and okay, are we going to find out who they are? Were any of those FBI informants the one that broke the window at the front door of the Capitol and climbed through and unlocked it for everyone? These are the things we want to know. And I don't understand why they're doing this interview. That's what I don't understand. I think that, you know, Kash, Patel, and Dan Bongino are broadcasters who are very good at presenting information. Why are they not presenting the information? Why are they sending it to congressional committees? You know, you can do both. They can send it to the committees in Congress and also make the presentations. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jeff from Maine, Brian.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, listen, I really believe they're dotting their I's, crossing their T's, using due process, following the letter of the law, making sure that when this broad umbrella of corruption, they need to make sure they do it correctly.
Yeah, but that's, see, listen, I agree with that, okay? However, why do the interview? The interview, they gave us no specifics. Kash Patel said the statute of limitations expired on this stuff. They're not presenting things to the public. They're sending it to Congress to release to the public. I didn't hear him once use the word arrest or indictment. Come on. What was the purpose of the interview? And they have turned MAGA people in this country very much against them with this interview.
I agree with them. They shouldn't have done the interview unless they're sending a message. I'm guessing Trump is making sure they're doing it right, but at the same time, I trust them. I trust they're going to do the job right. And I believe you said this for years about the deep state and all the, we know the election was stolen. I believe it was all
listen, we're not talking about 2020. Every call today, I don't know. Is somebody covering 2020? We have stuff going on in 2025 we're covering. And I'm not interested in talking about these things of the past. I want to talk about what's going on now. And I'll tell you what's going on now. And that's Father's Day is right around the corner. And if you're doing your Father's Day shopping, you want to go to mypillow.com. You can use our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, on all the specials at mypillow.com, not just the ones I talk about. I've been talking a lot about the MyPillow slippers, which are $90 off. There's not a MAGA dad in the world that would not like a pair of MyPillow slippers. They're $90 off with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. They're incredibly comfortable. I have the MyPillow slippers. Steve has the MyPillow slippers. And pretty much that's all Steve wears are MyPillow slippers. They're so comfortable. Your dad will love them, okay? And dad includes your husband, your adult sons that have children, includes grandpa. They will, and by the way, even if they're not MAGA, they'll love the MyPillow slippers. Great Father's Day gift, as is the MyPillow itself. So go to mypillow.com and use our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, okay, for these huge savings and for your Father's Day shopping. You can also order by phone, toll free, 1-800-716-4879 or 1-800-716-4879. Promo code Kane, Kane. All right. We have about a minute till the top of the hour, and I know there's a lot of you been on hold for a while. I'm going to go back to the phones after the break because I'd have to keep the call to like 30 seconds, and I want to give you more time. It's not that I don't trust Kash, Patel, and Dan Bongino, but this interview was really just a dumb idea. They had nothing there, okay? And what they've done is tick people off. Why, I didn't hear him talk about any arrest, any indictments. I heard him say the statute of limitations has expired. We can't do anything. So we're sending everything to Congress to let people know. I don't accept that. I agree they look like they were under pressure. Who's the pressure from? Is it from the president? Maybe. He's got to be ticked at them. He's got to be ticked off at them. And that thing could convince me that he's not upset with them. All right. We'll take our break for the top. If you're on hold, hang in there. Our number is toll free, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. We'll be back. Come on. No one wants the lawfare people brought to justice more than President Trump. No one. There's one opening on the board. Yeah, I agree they looked scared and under pressure. I think Trump's putting the pressure on them, and they're worried about Trump. That's what I think. How could Trump not be unhappy with them? I heard kicking the can down the road and excuse making for why there's no arrest. There wasn't even an expectation of arrest, right? How, Okay, we'll be back in a minute. 1 minute. All right, we're back. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. We've covered a lot. We talked about the Biden issue, and now we're talking about this interview with Bongino, Kash, Patel, with Maria Bartiromo. There's 2 openings on our board, and I want to play this next clip. This clip's got a lot of people upset. This is Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, interviewed together side by side by Bartiromo on Fox News over the weekend. I mean, now this one here has people really upset, and I understand why. The file. You cannot trust the file of the FBI. You have to run a new investigation. You know, maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but you can't go by the file that the previous FBI leadership left behind. You have to do an investigation into the jailers that left him alone and find out what their finances are for them and their families and extended families. I'm talking about cousins, nieces, and nephews as far as you can go. How can you look at the file from the past FBI leadership and say, oh, okay, the file's right here? That's the kind of site, Wikipedia. What are you reading from?
I'm not reading from anything.
You know, you mentioned McCarthy. You're aware that Joe McCarthy was right, that this country was being taken over by communists in Hollywood and in government. Look at Bernie Sanders, AOC in Hollywood. Democratic Socialist. They're communist. They don't call themselves communists, but they are. McCarthy was right.
Okay, I mean, that much I can agree with. But,
okay.
I mean...
So Roy Cohn was right. He worked for McCarthy. You can't find a response on the Wikipedia entry you're reading from?
I mean, you're pretty presumptuous, and you're also like, I mean, you're pretty cocky, pretty narcissistic, you're pretty fucking arrogant.
There we go. Second time we had to use the dump button, Mike. Yes. If you're on hold, hang in there as we wait for the delay to rebuild. But you know, while we're waiting for the delay to rebuild, let me tell you about Coastal Weight Loss Secret. You know, I went and got a haircut on Friday, and I had gone a long time without a haircut. I got a haircut a couple days before our cruise, which was the end of March. So, you know, it was like 6 weeks without a haircut. And I had not seen, and I have the same person who's been cutting my hair for years, and they hadn't seen me. And the first thing that she said is, wow, you've lost a lot of weight. And, you know, she doesn't listen to the program or anything, and I don't need somebody with scissors next to my ears listening to this program. I don't know what their politics are. And I said, well, thank you very much. And, of course, it's Coastal Weight Loss Secret. You know, all this weight that I've lost is amazing because I did it without any exercise, without any prescription medications like Ozempic, and I'm eating foods I would normally eat. All right, and I've lost all this weight. It's absolutely amazing. You know, I was a little nervous when I first went and met with Coastal Weight Loss Secret because I thought I was going to have to exercise all the time, which I knew I wouldn't be able to do. I thought I was going to have to eat like hardly any food, like I was going to get some prepared meals that tasted awful and hardly had any food, and I was going to be hungry all the time. And you know what? Not only am I eating foods I would normally eat, I'm not hungry, which blew my mind. Give them a call, all right? Now, when you call Coastal Weight Loss Secret, make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. Also, remember this. No matter where you are, they can help you. You don't have to be local and in town here in South Florida. In fact, many of you that listen to this program all over America have called Coastal Weight Loss Secret. Do it. It works. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlosssecret.com. All right, let's go. Delay is re-engaged. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Conservative Doug.
Hey, Doug.
You know, I agree, man. I was disappointed. I don't understand. So what are they doing on there telling us that to give us 2 more weeks and we have nothing to say right now? It didn't make any sense, man. It was a total waste of a dumb idea.
What you got to do, you got to ask yourself is, what was the point of them doing the interview? Why'd they do the interview? Why?
That didn't make any sense. I tell you, it was a big mistake, big mistake. And then to say that, like you brought out, man, 100%. Everybody wants to know. We hired these guys to find out what's going on. And now, if the statute of limitation is over, it's over. But at least we want to know what they did. That they are criminals, but they got away with it.
The statute of limitations does not mean they can't investigate. And by the way, if they go and question them about these crimes and they lie to federal agents, that's a new crime. And it's not like these lawfare people didn't just commit one crime and then stop. They've been doing many crimes over the years. I don't buy this statute of limitations expiration. I don't buy that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's.
And what is the what is this? And I don't know. Maybe somebody knows. What's the statute of limitation on treason against the United States government? Because what they were doing,
I don't think there's any.
there was treason against the sitting president of the United States, Donald Trump, the 45th president at the time. So I don't know. What is the statute of limitation on treason?
I don't think there is any, but
I don't know.
That's something that should be brought out, man. 100%, you're right. I don't know what's going on. The other thing that was bothering me is that we're going to bring the information to Congress. Wait a minute.
Oh, and by the way, I want to say something to the person that threatened me this morning. I received a threat this morning during the show. And I just want you to know that I have your phone number and information, and so just so you know, all right, to the person who threatened me this morning, and it was a threat. You know, I don't usually talk about things like that, especially right after they happen, but I just, felt the need.
You got all these kind of big mouth people who talk and.
Oh no, I received a real threat. It wasn't somebody disagreeing with me on an issue. I received a real threat this morning during the show, within the last 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
It was a real one.
Told me one time it was the same kind of threat. I said, "Come on down. Let me see what you're gonna do." Yeah.
No. You don't do that. You do what I do. You give the information to the authorities. All right. You don't answer with another threat. That's like you're doing something wrong then. Idiots. All right. Listen, if you're on hold, hang in there. We're going to take our first break of the second hour. I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. Our number is toll free, 1-888-465-2631. We'll be right back. Just because you didn't hear it. We'll be back in about 3 minutes. About 3 minutes, guys. No, well, I won't say. No. We'll be back in about 30 seconds. All right, we're back. I'm Brian. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. We'll take another call or two, and then I'll do some recapping. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Mike from Louisiana.
Hey, Mike.
You know, they got to understand, you can't just tell us you got this information and you're sending it. Give us something. You know, if it's a list of names, give us a name. We still don't know. We still don't know which group, let's say, Ray Epps was an asset for. We know he was an asset for somebody. We just don't know which group he was an asset for.
Well, I don't know. We don't know. But I appreciate the call, Mike. You know, here's the thing. Okay. When I first heard the interview yesterday, I was very excited, and I heard it. And as more time goes by and I think about it, I'm asking myself, what was the point of that interview? Why'd they do it? They kicked the can down the road. They told us all these reasons why they can't prosecute people. They're sending things to Congress. No, it was, the interview was a mistake. And at one point, Bongino, he's like, this guy, he's working till 6:30 every night. I know my office's name. Who cares? They should be living there. You know, here's the thing. Okay? And I think this is a legitimate criticism of Kash Patel. And you can let me know if you agree or disagree, and I want to hear your thoughts, in particular MAGA people, on the Bongino interview. Our number is, if you're on hold, hang in there, 1-888-465-2631. 888-465-2631. Anyone who is MAGA are big fans of Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. There's no getting around it. Kash Patel has spent the last 4 years auditioning for this job with all the interviews he did, talking about everything in detail. Very detailed. Now he's got the job, and he doesn't use the word arrest. He doesn't use the word indictment. He says statute of limitations has expired. And they're using Chris Wray's records and files to make judgments on what they're doing moving forward. And they're moving on. Something's wrong here. So what's going on? What's going on? And did somebody get to them? A lot of people have commented that listen to this program. A lot of MAGA people said they look scared. Do you think Bongino and Kash Patel look scared? But then the question is, are they scared of some deep state people, or are they scared of Trump because they haven't delivered? Are they, they're well aware. Dan Bongino has responded at least twice on X in the last few weeks about this, okay? And so they may not comment details on X, but they follow what's going on. there has been tremendous amount of pressure put on Pam Bondi to do something. Now, this thing with Comey over the weekend, now that's another mystery. So Comey was not arrested. Now we know that it was, believe me, he should be sitting in a jail cell this morning waiting for arraignment in federal court in D.C. for what Comey did. All right? After the show on Friday, which is, we were talking about the Comey incident on Friday's show, I had to go somewhere. I'm in the car around 10 on Friday. I'm at a red light and I checked Twitter, and Kash Patel kicked the can down the road on this and said that he was aware of the Comey incident. This is under the jurisdiction of the Secret Service, not us at the FBI. Immediately kicked the can over to the Secret Service. Now, I understand that these things are investigated by the Secret Service. However, they're still federal crimes. But instantly, on Friday morning, Kash Patel distanced himself from anything with Comey in that incident. And then we get this interview. Now, so far as Comey not being arrested, I'm not happy about that. I know you guys are not either. I think he should have been arrested. However, this was up to the Secret Service to decide, right? The Secret Service, the director of the Secret Service is the guy who was with President Trump when he got shot. I got a picture on the wall in my living room of the fight. You know, it's in my living room. It's on the wall in my living room, and this guy is in it. Steve, is it Curran? Is that his name? Curran, or is it Curran? It can't be Curran. It's got to be Curran. He's the director of the Secret Service. So he made the call on this. We know he's loyal to Trump. You saw him give the Secret Service badge to the little boy when they made him a member of the Secret Service, and he hugged him. The Secret Service is not under the Justice Department. It's under the Department of Homeland Security. And Kristi Noem said she wanted him arrested, and he wasn't. So what happened? We really don't know. I talked about this a lot on the weekend. Those of you that follow me on my podcast and on YouTube, I talked about this at great length over the weekend. I'm going to talk about it a little bit now. I believe that the lawfare, there's people that have been after Trump those 4 years of the Biden regime, that they have a leadership committee. Now, it may be kind of unofficial, but, you know, but there's a group of leaders, and I believe that Comey's one of those leaders of it. Yeah, DJ, the little boy DJ. So why would they let him go? Why would Kristi Noem could have had him arrested on Friday. So why did they not arrest him? There's a couple of possibilities that I can think of. One is this. Maybe they have him under surveillance. Maybe they let him go and use the incident to get some FISA warrants, or maybe they just got a regular warrants to monitor him, to see who he talks to. I don't know. Maybe they'll arrest him down the road. It doesn't look like it. But why do you think they let him go? Why did they not arrest him? He should have been arrested. So what happened there? There was a conscious decision made at the upper levels of the Trump administration not to arrest him. There's another possibility. Now, this is one I talked about at great length over the weekend, but I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. And those of you on hold, stand by. If Comey would have been arrested, well, you know what? I looked at the clock. Let me take this break on time. When we get back, I'll get into that because it'll take more time. I'll just be so late for the rest of the show. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian. We'll be right back. If you're on hold, hang in there. We'll be back shortly. This is Pepsi, guys. It's one of our cats. Pepsi. Hey, Pepsi. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. This is the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. Call us on hold, stand by. So we've covered a lot. We talked about the Biden incident, the Bongino interview, and I was talking about the Comey not being arrested. So I'll get into more detail on the Comey not being arrested theories in just a bit. Let me take another call or two. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, good morning. It's George. I looked up the Constitution. It does not set a specific time limit for prosecuting treason, which allows charges to be brought at any time.
So there's no statute of limitation on treason, according to your Googling. Okay. So what's your thoughts on Kash Patel saying the statute of limitations has expired on these people?
I think it's BS.
Yeah.
Because, I just looked it up.
Yeah. So what do you think's going on here? Why, Kash Patel and Bongino have been all over this for 4 years. What do you think happened?
Yeah, well, nothing. I don't know, but I'm disappointed like you.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate the call. Yeah, we're disappointed. So let me get back to Comey not being arrested. So there's a couple possibilities. The first one I mentioned before the break, I'll just restate it quickly. They might have released him and gotten warrants and or have surveillance going on to see who he interacts with. Okay, that's a possibility. If they would have arrested Comey on Friday, however, the media would have made it the scandal of the century. And the Democrats and the Never-Trumpers would have made it a scandal beyond imagination. Now, it's okay for them to arrest President Trump multiple times, but to arrest Comey would be a constitutional crisis created in Washington. The government would shut down. It would shut down. And I'm wondering a couple of things about this. And I talked about this a lot over the weekend, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on everything we brought up. Call us on hold, you hang in there. Steve on Friday asked a pretty good question that got me thinking about this. Do you think Comey wanted to get arrested? Did Comey want to get arrested? I think he did. And I don't mean to promote his book. When Elon Musk and Doge exposed USAID, we found out that almost all the government corruption was being paid for through USAID. And President Trump shut it down. These deep staters and insiders in the permanent Washington class got their money cut off. And it's not just their money. This is the money for their whole families. There's tremendous financial pressure going on among the permanent Washington class. They can't make car payments, mortgage payments, pay their kids' tuition to the fancy schools and stuff. I'm telling you. And is it a possibility? I know this will sound far-fetched to a lot of people, but I don't think so. We know this. They're always trying to stop Trump. Trump has a massive mandate. They pulled this while he was out of the country, too, if you noticed. And by the way, those Republicans that went against the bill, that's all reversed now because the big, beautiful bill passed the committee. Was this part of an operation to try to create a crisis? Comey get arrested, create a crisis, and shut down Washington? So Trump, with his mandate, would not be able to get the big, beautiful bill done or anything else? There's that possibility as well. And it was a trap. It was a trap put together by Comey and the lawfare people against Trump. And the Trump administration, Kristi Noem, Secret Service, President Trump possibly himself, made a decision not to arrest Comey to not fall into that trap. Something happened. This was not under justice, it was under Secret Service. That means Kristi Noem could have had him arrested, and she was all about arresting him when this story broke, wasn't she? She was talking about it very openly. So let's hear your thoughts on that, the interview, the Biden cancer, all this stuff. 1-888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Phoebe from Central Florida.
Yes.
And I wanted to comment about the interview with Bartoloma.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Kash Patel for me did not sound like his usual tough self.
Nope.
He sounded very weak, and not Kash Patel, Bongino. And he sounded very weak for me. And then when Bongino started mentioning about that they were presented with a lot of these files, and there's 2 different categories, 9 and 10. Right there, when I heard that, I said, "Oh, they've been played by the deep state."
Really? Okay, so hold on. Okay, now hold on. I'm glad you brought that up. Okay, I agree with you 100%. These were not the 2 guys we normally see. This was, you know, it looked like a hostage video, is what it looked like.
Right.
So I mean, and they look scared. So you don't think it's Trump they're scared of? You think somebody got to them?
I think they're being played by the deep state. They're being bogged down with all these files and everything like that, and I think they're like they can't see clear. It's just.
Oh, I think they see clear. I mean, when Kash Patel said this, the statute of limitations has expired, which I do not accept that, but that's what he said. So they can't prosecute these crimes, and we'll go after those where we can prosecute, which means he's going to ignore all those other things. That sucks. And sending files to Congress? No, come on. No, that was.
And he wasn't clear about what it was. I mean, he left everything vague.
And let me tell you. Let me. Yeah, exactly. You know, and I don't accept, that's what I was talking about. What these people did was treason. President Trump was the sitting president of the United States then. They committed treason. Are they telling us that treason has a statute of limitation on it?
Exactly.
Of
that doesn't make
4 or
sense.
5 years? I don't get it. And the other thing is, this is not like one crime they committed. Oh, they robbed a bank in 1963. Statute of limitations is up or something. I don't know. They did other crimes too connected to it. It's part of a larger conspiracy. So I don't accept that. Now, with that being said, if they did get threatened by deep state people, I'm not going to hold that against them. I mentioned when I was talking to Doug, I received a threat during the program today from somebody. They knew what they were doing. Okay? I'm not going to tell you what it was, but I have their information. Okay? I'm saying that to them. So, you know, when you or your family get threatened, you know, I connect to that. I've been through this in my life. So I'm not necessarily holding that against them. But for us to act like, oh, they're just crossing the T's and dotting the I's, that's not what happened. And Bartiromo was not happy with them. She was feeling like we're feeling. You could tell.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Absolutely.
Appreciate the call. Take care. Yeah. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Jason Boca. Brian, how are you today?
All right. How are you?
Good. I know that people... upset that they haven't arrested anybody about letting 20 million people in the country and the COVID stuff. That's within the realm of 7 years. So those people should be.
Well, should,
arrested.
in the world of should.
You know, everything else.
Well, I'll give you an example. Okay, you talk about, let's talk about the border people. Mayorkas was the Homeland Security guy, this creeper who talks like a weirdo, right? You know, why did he leave the border open? Have they investigated his finances? What about that Judge Mershon in New York, whose daughter raised $100 million from Democrat donors on the promise of putting Trump in prison when he was on trial in her dad's courtroom? Have they investigated Judge Mershon?
Yeah, she got 10% of that.
Yeah, and she's a partner in that company.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm talking about. There's other things to be fingers gripped around.
And Bongino told Bartiromo, and at one point in that interview, Bongino said, well, you know, Maria, do you want to, you know, we got other things we got to do. Do you want to see New York go kaboom? Or do you want to see people break into the Fox News computers? We got other things we got to do too. We got to prioritize what we're investigating. I mean, I was really in those. What do you think's going on with these guys?
I think that this isn't just a swamp, it's the Mariana Trench, and it's much deeper, darker than we will ever know.
Did they seem scared to you?
They seemed intimidated.
Well, who would be intimidating them?
Especially Bongino.
Really?
So, yeah, I just by the look in his eye and the way he kept staring forward and kind of trying to form words in his head before he said something stupid, which they did anyway, because, you know, crimes, things out of time, this, that.
Yeah.
You know, they're like my ex-wife and their excuses, you know.
Your ex-wife.
It's bad.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not alone here. All right. Appreciate the call.
I did send you a picture the other day.
Of what?
Hello?
Yeah. What'd you send a picture of?
Well, we were talking about immigration on X. They sent you a picture of 2 houses that have over 40 illegals living in them.
Okay. All right. I'll take a look. All right. Appreciate the call. Send that to Tom Homan. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Oh, no. Not you. All right. If you're on hold, hang in there. You know, it does now. I think myself and those who, like the last caller, it's not like we're angry at Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. We're trying to find out what happened. These guys are 2 of the strongest Trump supporters in America. They're 2 of the most vocal voices in the MAGA movement the last 4 years. Okay. And both of them talking to tens of millions of Americans over the last 4 years about all the problems, all these things that have to be taken care of, and now they're there. And all we heard yesterday were excuses on why they can't do it. It's not like we're upset at them in an angry way, like these guys, you know, I'm done with them. No, I don't feel betrayed by them. And I don't think the last caller and those I've talked to this morning feel betrayed by them. We're worried about them. That something's happened that we don't know about. Our number is toll-free 1-888-465-2631. Now, we're in hurricane rainy season, and if you have a leak in your roof, oh man, that means, you know, you want to get it taken care of before the heavy rains come or a hurricane or a tropical storm comes. You want to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. You know, Tom Laporta, he's a good MAGA guy. He'll never sell you a roof you do not need. He works on every type of structure, single-family home, condos, HOAs, apartment buildings, commercial buildings, municipal buildings, and he does a lot of work on church roofs, too. He covers both the east and west coast of Florida and everywhere in between. He works with every type of roofing material, and because he's not just a roofer, he's also a contractor, Florida law allows Tom Laporta to deal directly with your insurance company on the cost of the repair or the replacement of your roof. And let me tell you, you get that tropical storm that comes through, you get that hurricane that comes through, and you've got a loose shingle, you got a loose tile, that's bad, bad news. Remember, even when we have a tropical storm, there's hurricane force winds in a tropical storm. They're just not sustained. The hurricane is when they're sustained. Like you might have a Category 1 hurricane, which isn't the worst, okay? However, in a Category 1 hurricane, you can get category 3, 4, even 5 wind gusts. That's right. They're just not sustained. And what that wind is looking for, you know what you get, and those of you that are new, that haven't been through hurricanes, that are new to Florida, you know what, a lot of damage is caused by tornadoes. Hurricanes bring tornadoes with them. It's a mess. And what those winds are looking for is an entryway into your home. And that loose shingle or tile where you've got that wet spot on your ceiling could be that entryway. And once it gets that entryway, takes the whole thing with him. Give Tom Laporta a call. This number rings directly to Tom Laporta's cell phone. 954-604-4602. 954-604-4602. You can also text him there. 954-604-4602. He also can handle a job of any size, whether it's one building, one home, or an HOA with over 300 units. He can handle a job of any size. Give him a call. If you're on hold, hang in there. It's the Steve Kane Show. I'm Brian Craig. We'll be right back. All right, if you're on hold, hang in there, guys. What? We'll be back in just over a minute. Welcome, everyone. Unique Bean in the chat said, why do an interview and just tell us we have to wait 2 weeks? Yeah. I wouldn't say I'm angry at them. I'm like worried about them. You know, do you guys agree with that, Bongino and Kash Patel? Are you angry or worried about them? Angry or worried about them? Which would you say? All right, I'm Brian Craig. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest running radio show. And we've covered quite a bit. I'll just go to the phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? You're on the air. Once, twice. All right. You missed your opportunity. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Rich from Boca.
Hey, Rich.
Hey, listen, is any thoughts in your mind that this whole situation with that interview actually came from Trump, and when he heard
Well,
all the
okay.
evidence.
Well, this is let's clarify. Okay, you're talking about the Bongino Kash Patel interview.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what do you suggest he may have come from Trump?
Yeah. I'm just wondering if when they confronted Trump with all the information that they had, some reason he decided let's not go any further with it.
I don't believe that. No, I don't believe that. You know, these lawfare these never Trumpers shot him, and then they tried to do it again.
Yeah.
And they got him arrested many times. Like as an example, the one I used before the break, this corrupt Judge Mershon in New York with the daughter raising $100 million. They're not investigating that guy. They don't have time for that.
No, I understand that. I mean, there's so many different factions, but I'm just wondering in the overall picture.
No.
Realize that maybe
because a couple things. One, Trump wants to clear his name. Two, he wants the history books corrected. Three, these people are going to harass him and his family for the rest of their lives if they're not brought to justice. No, I don't believe that Donald Trump says, oh, don't arrest any of those laws. Just let them go about their life. No, I don't buy that. Nope.
All right, just a thought.
All right, well, it's a crazy one. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Dean from Martin County.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. So what? I missed the first part of the show this morning. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
What are they saying? Statute of limitations ran out on? Which cases?
Well, they were vague, but they were talking about January 6th in particular, that the statute of limitations is up.
Well, to go after who?
They didn't say. They didn't say. And I don't buy that because treason.
It can't run out. There's no way.
There's a 4-year statute of limitations on treason against the United States government. I don't buy that. There might be a statute. This is nonsense to me. Nonsense. But even if, and then Kash Patel said we'll continue to look in the cases that we can prosecute. Even if statute of limitations was up, let's just say that. Okay, I don't believe that. I don't buy that. But let's just say it was.
I don't either.
What is stopping them from investigating and then presenting to the American people? Okay, on January 4th, this person called Pelosi, and then Pelosi called the White House and says, we don't want the troops. And then this happened, and then this person did this, and this person talked to this person in MAGA gear that went in that window over there. You know what I'm talking about? That was nonsense. To me, it looked like a hostage video.
Trump's not going to let. I mean, they tried to kill. I mean, the torture that man went through for the last 10 years. There's no way he's going to say, okay, the statute of limitations ran out. Okay, let him go.
Yeah.
No.
And I don't accept that.
I don't either.
He was everything they did. Ridiculous. Everything they did was to Trump. Trump was the sitting president of the United States.
Right.
That's treason.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, they got how many? I don't know. 1,500. Let's just say 1,500 J6 victims, right? Those people need to be compensated for. I mean, 3 years of their life was tortured.
Well, yeah. Okay. Hey, listen, I appreciate the call. I'm glad I'm not alone on this because because I thought maybe sometimes I get too close to these issues. I've lost track of the order of the calls, guys. My apologies. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Brian, this is Tom from PA.
All right, Tom, speak up. You're on the speak. Can you take yourself off speaker? I guess he can't. He hung up. Okay, if you're on hold, hang in there. For those that are just joining, and I may go over this after the top of the hour with Steve. Dan Bongino and Kash Patel did a sit-down interview that aired yesterday on Fox. The interview was done by Maria Bartiromo. And the interview was incredibly disappointing. As I told the last caller, Kash Patel said that the statute of limitations had run out on a lot of these crimes, the people that went after Trump. And I just don't understand if there can be a statute of limitation on treason. If anybody has any information on this, let me know. They did not talk about arrest or indictments. They said that they have information and it's being sent to Congress. And both of them looked off in that interview. And I agree. A caller said, especially Bongino, one of the callers has said Bongino did not look himself. He looked really off during that interview. They did look scared. The question is, who are they scared of? Trump because they haven't delivered? Or deep state people getting to them? These are the questions. All right, you're on the air.
Hey, Brian, it's Tom from PA.
Now we can hear you. Go ahead, Tom. That's much better.
Oh, great. I'm a relatively new listener, first-time caller, and I just wanted to make a couple of points.
Yes.
I was never political until Trump came down the aisle, and ever since then, I've really been in the game. So I just wanted to make a couple of points. I'm willing to give Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino the benefit of the doubt and the time to work things through. Every new job that I've ever had, it took 3 months just to get to know everybody, who's doing what, get to know their names, get to know the departments. So I feel like it does take a little bit of time. And then the next 3 months, you're assessing what's going on, and then you get your feet on the ground, and then you start implementing. So there, I'm willing to give them a little bit, of a leeway. But with the interview, I feel like, I watched Congress for the last 4 or 5 years, only to find out that all of their trials and whatever they do on TV, at the end of the day, they say, oh, well, we can't do anything. We need the DOJ to do something.
Yeah.
And so to hear Kash Patel to say, well, we have all this stuff and we're going to send it to Congress, what does that mean? Like, I kind of feel like if there is no arrest or indictments, what are we waiting for?
Yeah, like one of the things Bongino said is the information on the pipe bomber from J6 is going to come out. Well, how about arresting that person and then have a press conference about the arrest? Why? That interview was weird. It was weird, and it was all kicking the can down the road and making excuses to be do-nothings.
I have been saying this for years. I mean, I'm in my 50s, and I remember back in the day when you would hear something on the news, it was someone getting indicted or arrested. Now it's, the news is basically, oh, we know this story and we know this happened, but no arrests. And I think, definitely in this administration, we need to get past that with everything that they've done to Trump and the American
So
people.
what do you think happened here? I mean, listen, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have been screaming from the rafters for 4 years about J6 and everything. They've both been really applying and auditioning for these jobs to President Trump for 4 years. They got the jobs, and now they said they can't do anything. So what happened?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I definitely just wanted to call in and make that point, and I do agree with you.
Well, listen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Yeah, we have a lot of listeners in Pennsylvania. I don't know what it is about Pennsylvania. Well, it's a good red state, right? That's why Fetterman's trying to sound like a Republican. All right, our number is 888-465-2631. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from? What's your name? You're on the air. Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Bob from Jupiter.
Hey, Bob. What's up?
Real quickly with Biden and the cancer, do you think the reason why? And I know it's stage 4, but I am in the medical field, so not in that area. But do you think that he probably wasn't detected because he was hiding from doctors for a while because of the cognitive issues?
No, I don't think it was hidden. I think they knew. I think he's getting a lot of negative press and the Tapper book's out this week, and he's trying to get sympathy from people. Leave me alone. I have stage 4 cancer. Leave me alone.
Oh,
I don't think he found out on. I don't think he found out on Friday. And you're in the medical field. Every man over 80 almost has prostate cancer if they have a prostate still. Most men that live in yeah.
I'm not in that area, but they said it was stage 4 and how aggressive it was, but that didn't just pop up 2 weeks ago. So I would think a president would have,
of course,
especially at his advanced stage, would be having prostate checks. Like,
of course he did. Of course he did. Remember, he had physicals. He had regular physicals. He knew it's not new to them. It's new to us.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Take care. We've had some really good calls today, I must say. Let me take another. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Mark from Jupiter.
Hey, Mark. Got 30 seconds. Then we got a break. What's on your mind?
Okay, real quick. I think you're looking at some bad acting right there. I think you're looking at two guys that aren't used to lying, that are lying. I think they're letting the pressure off of the people that they're getting ready to indict, so that maybe they get a little chatter and they can monitor that. That's my opinion.
Really?
I think they're going to go after somebody.
I hope you're right. Yeah.
I think it is. I think they're honest guys right there, and they don't like to lie, and they're lying to Maria.
Okay. That's interesting.
So I think I feel good about it.
Does anyone know, by the way, does anyone know when that interview was recorded? It aired yesterday. When was it? Was it recorded before or after the Comey incident? Anyone know?
I don't have those facts.
All right, listen.
I'm guessing after.
All right, I got to run for the top. Thanks for the call. That's an interesting new theory. 2 hours down, 1 to go. We'll be right back. Hey, let me put you on hold for a minute. Hold on. Okay. All right, what's going on? Oh yeah, that's a big one. Okay, I will. Okay, all right. All right, you there, Steve? Steve, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, hold on.
Only I can barely hear you in my headset.
Well, it's your phone.
The story isn't going too far.
You're on a different. Hold on, let me put you on hold again. All right, how's that? Is that any better?
I can hear you fine now.
Okay. We got about a minute, so we got two things we can do. I can either recap it or take some of the calls about it. What do you want to do?
Recap it.
Okay.
Because I missed that one interview after watching it the whole weekend. I missed that one interview.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's the big one. You know, it was big. It was. Okay.
Give me all the details.
Well, it won't take long to do that. Okay. We got 1 minute. We'll be back.
If I got questions, I'll ask.
All right. Very disappointing interview.
Evidently.
I'm worried about them, not angry at them. It looked like I'll tell you what happened, but it looked like a hostage video.
I heard you say that, yeah.
All right, hold on. Got 30 seconds. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. You're listening to Florida's longest-running radio show, The Steve Kane Show, on the radio since 1977, celebrating 48 years on the radio. Steve Kane joining us. Hey, Steve.
How you doing?
All right. You know, the Maria Bartiromo interview that aired on Fox Business yesterday with Bongino and Kash Patel. They were sitting next to each other. That's what
I missed it.
Yeah, well, I'll recap it for you. And I want to before I do the recapping, I want to tell people listening, I'm not angry at Bongino or Kash Patel. I'm worried about them because the way I would describe it is a hostage video. Okay, did anybody notice were their eyes blinking? Were they doing Morse code?
What you're saying is they were extremely uncomfortable.
Oh, especially Bongino. Bongino looked physically ill, and he was sweating. Okay, now just before I tell you what happened on the interview, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino have been screaming from the top of their lungs for the last 4 years about everything that's been done to Trump, right? From J6 on.
Right.
They know
Especially the 2 assassination attempts.
exactly. So they know all the players, they know everything, and then they did this interview, and it was, I'll give you a couple examples from the interview, okay? Kash Patel said that the statute of limitations has run out on most of these things, and they can't do anything. Which I don't buy that. I just don't buy that. And
I don't blame you.
Yeah, and he said on things they can prosecute, they'll do something, but they're sending all the files and information to Congress to release. I know. Isn't that crazy?
No,
Now
they're buying time.
For what?
For whatever they're sitting on to develop.
I don't know, Steve. If, they're giving more time for more statutes of limitations to run out.
I got this. I've got this in my. As I listen to the story, it seems that they've just reached a point in the investigation where they're dealing with stuff that they're not ready to release to the public. In this interview, they were forced for whatever reason to do this interview prematurely. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yes. Okay. I think Now, okay. I mentioned that a little earlier. The problem is not what they have not done. The problem is the interview itself. Okay? The interview should not have happened. They
didn't want to be there.
Well, who made them do it?
Well, I mean, we're speculating, but my guess is that the thing was scheduled and they thought better of it. Maybe they got new information, or they weren't. They were forced to do it by circumstance.
A lot of people think they look scared. But then this caller before the top of the hour had a different theory, and that made a lot of sense to me. Right before you came on, he said it was similar to what you said, and then he put an added thing on that maybe they're trying to give some false sense of security to some of the people they're going to be locking up soon. I don't know.
Well, if that was the case, they wouldn't be so uncomfortable. They didn't want to do what they were doing.
They did not once mention, they didn't use the word arrest or indictment. Those words were never uttered. Arrest or indictment, never uttered.
Well, from what you say, they didn't mention much of anything.
It was a long interview, but they didn't say anything. No. And Bartiromo was really annoyed. I could tell she was really annoyed. I think she felt like this. Why? It was like she was interviewing Mayorkas and Chris Wray about these things. These are the kind of answers you would have got. Mayorkas, for those that don't remember, was Biden's Homeland Security Secretary.
You might say like pulling teeth.
And giving them nothing. Correct. Yeah. And I don't want people to think I'm attacking these guys. If they were doing what Steve says, that's awesome. But a lot of people think they look scared and were threatened. If they were threatened and are, these guys are awesome.
No, I think you got it figured out. Sometimes the direct answer is the simple one.
It usually is.
I think for whatever reason, they weren't ready to go on, and they had committed to do it, or whatever the reason was, they felt they had to follow through, and they were uncomfortable.
Well, there's, one of the biggest criticisms that's been going on with Pam Bondi is she's doing too many interviews, and they're very well aware of this. That instead of doing interviews, do arrest. And I don't want to see any interviews. I want to see press conferences with arrest or indictments or calling something out. I hope you're right.
Well, I think to agonize beyond the point I think we've got the answer.
The body language, they were uncomfortable. And, and the one caller said what we saw was some bad acting. They were uncomfortable with the interview. And they're honest guys, and in particular Bongino, and he can't lie well. So the uncomfortable look on Bongino was that they were sitting up there with BS stories, and he was uncomfortable doing that.
Exactly.
Okay. I hope you're right. I mean, I
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean we're ever going to find out. I don't know. I mean, obviously they found out something.
They say they have. They say they found out all kinds of stuff. They said
They wouldn't tell us what it was.
No, they said they got what the most specific things they said was they've got a list of FBI assets that were at the Capitol on January 6th. Not agents, but assets, like informants that were there. And they're sending that information to Congress. That was one thing they said that was specific. Another thing they said was they got all the information on the pipe bomber, but they didn't tell us anything about it. And they're sending that to Congress.
What about the two jokers that attempted to kill Trump?
Nothing on that. They can't talk about that. One's an active case. The other guy's dead. There's no active case. Bongino said that he said the guy the one where President Trump was shot, the guy's dead. Bongino said that there was a foreign country involved. That's all he said. And we know that already. That's not new. That's Ukraine, because he had the shooter that got killed. He had a bunch of phones, and on one of the phones he was calling a number with a Ukrainian number. And we have the Ukrainian connection to the golf course assassin.
It's all very disquieting, and I can understand why you're upset.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, when I heard about the interview, I was very excited because they were doing it together. I was like, oh boy. And Bartiromo, and she was pissed. She was pissed at him.
Well, there's got to be a huge presence in the press today discussing it.
The internet is melting down over the disappointment and outrage. People are really upset with them.
And I would imagine the regular press is going to go pretty crazy too.
No, I think they'll sit on it. I don't think they're most of what the news
not the conservative columnists, not the columnists that write for the Post. I wouldn't think.
I agree. And the interview was on Fox, so Fox will want to promote their own interview. So I'm hoping there'll be a lot on Fox about it today. But it was your theory would be, out of everything that's been discussed today, your theory, listen, anytime you're looking for an answer to anything, whether it's a multiple choice exam or an issue, the most obvious explanation is usually the explanation. And yours is yours that they were forced into doing an interview. They can't reveal anything, and they were uncomfortable because they didn't want to do this interview before they started doing arrest. I mean, that seems very possible, and I hope you're right. I really do. That's not just very possible. It's the best of all the theories.
Well, my favorite line, sometimes a banana is just a banana.
That's correct. That's right. Father's Day's coming up. No better gift than anything from MyPillow. I have all the MyPillow products. So sometimes people ask me, like, what's your favorite thing? They're all great. But when I'm talking about Father's Day, I was talking about the slippers a lot last week. But I got to tell you that I have a MyPillow mattress topper. Oh, my goodness. The MyPillow mattress topper, there's not a dad in the world that wouldn't like that mattress topper to go. When I get on that mattress topper, I'm out like a light. Seconds. My wife and I were talking, and I'm falling asleep in conversation, Steve. I get to, sometimes we lie in bed and watch TV. I haven't seen the ending of a television show in years because we got the MyPillow mattress topper. There's not a dad in the world who would not love a MyPillow mattress topper. Huge discounts on them with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. But remember, you can do all your Father's Day shopping at MyPillow.com. And Dad isn't just
What is that promo code again? Let me write it down.
It's your name, Kane, Kane. Kane.
Oh, I can remember that.
Yeah, it's your name. Yes, that's correct, Kane. You can use our promo code Kane on all the specials at MyPillow.com, not just the ones we talk about. And but Dad is not just your dad; it's your grandpa. It could be your husband or even your adult son who's got kids, right? There's yeah. So go to MyPillow.com. Use our promo code Kane at checkout. Huge savings and great Father's Day gifts. All right, call us on hold. Stand by. It's the Steve Kane Show. Steve Kane's here. I'm Brian. We'll be right back.
there?
Yeah. Everybody can hear you though, but that's okay. It depends. I'll pick up the phone. Hold on. Yeah, what's up? Yeah. I did not. No, I did not. It's only 14 after now. This is the quarter after break. I took the one on top on time. I took it on time. This is the first break of the third hour. Okay, hold on. Bottom of the hour. Okay, all right, hold on. All right, you there, Steve?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
But can't hear you too loud.
All right, hold on, try it again. What about now?
Now I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, man. One minute, we'll be back.
Okay.
Okay, hold on. Okay. All right. Steve, you there?
Yes.
30 seconds. I'm going to take some calls when we get back.
Okay.
I got a couple other things, but maybe we'll get some calls on this. Because... We're back. I'm Brian Craig. Steve Kane is here. Let's go to our phones. You're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, MAGA fam. Wow. My spidey senses went off yesterday when I saw Kash Patel looking up and to the right a lot. Are you with me, Brian?
Yes, up and to the right. Yes, the significance of that.
And he did that quite a bit, and it's kind of out of his character when he's more serious and looking straight ahead. But what I got away with it is apprehensiveness from the whole thing. Something is holding them back, and for them to have to lie for whatever reason it is probably the reason for the character change in their.
Okay, so looking up and to the right is a tell for lying. Correct.
But because you're. If I'm not mistaken, but that means he's uncomfortable and he's forced to do it. Now, why did Pam Bondi let them go to this interview? What is the reason behind it? What are we going to wait for in the next 2.5?
Well, I gotta tell you, there has been a campaign led by Laura Loomer to bring down Pam Bondi, and it's gaining a lot of steam. Maybe Steve, they went on there to take some heat off of Pam Bondi. And shift some to themselves, because there's a lot of pressure.
Well, we're just tilting at windmills at this point. I mean, we're just making wild guesses. Obviously they get caught in a bad situation where they didn't want to reveal anything else.
Yeah.
And they had to bluff their way through it.
I didn't get the fuzzies yesterday. But what really got me was when Maria Bartiromo asked the direct question. I believe she said 8 years. We've been waiting 8 years. So they avoided that question like a Democrat. And also when Patel said that Epstein killed himself, I said no way he would have done that, because the guards were not in the aisle. The cameras was off.
Well, when Bongino's answer was so strange, he said, "I've looked through the file." What, the Chris Wray file? So he's going by Chris Wray's file for that? That seemed very strange to me.
And that could have been rewritten as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, they need their own investigation into some of these things.
Before the final draft.
Okay.
Really quickly on the auto pen.
Yes.
Really quickly on the auto pen. We gotta sequester or get Jean-Pierre We got to do something with her.
Okay.
Because she
All right.
was the one out there
I
always
appreciate the
talking
call.
about-
You know, Steve, what IB just did there, I'll give you guys some behind the scenes. Textbook chronic caller technique. Textbook. And, you know, chronic callers, by the way, you can call every day, and there's good chronics and bad chronics, right? Somebody that, the bad chronics, and if you notice, I'm usually pretty short with IB. Not that I dislike him, but he's mediocre caller. And if you notice, with a chronic caller like IB that's got nothing to say, every time they know you're about to hang up, they got one more thing, right? Like he knew I was about to hang up, you know, and then the auto pen. Yeah, one more thing, the auto pen, textbook chronic. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Morning, Brian. Randy from South Mississippi.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, quick theory, Brian, and I know Dan Bongino had that deer in the headlight look, but can I just, one theory, do you think maybe some of the stuff that they found were probably names that he never thought in his mind could ever be involved in some of the stuff that they're finding? Like, oh my God, I never would have thought he would have done that. He was like an upstanding guy, but come to find out that that they probably had a darker side, and he's maybe kind of disappointed or just disbelief that certain people maybe that he had relationships with as far as
Are you assuming that he found out? Hold on. Are you assuming he found out for the first time this information at the taping?
No, sir. What I'm saying is the look that he had in this interview was like, to me, also maybe like Brian said, was a hostage situation. But it also, there's a look like maybe there's names in there that he never thought that
Like people he was friends with or respected, and then he found out they were part of the operation against Trump. That's
But
not.
what the caller saying, wasn't it? The caller saying that it was that he didn't know in advance of the interview.
No, I think he means since he's been at the FBI. But the thing with Bongino, caller, did you see the interview or just hear like the clips I played?
No, sir. I didn't watch the whole interview. I watched your clips through there. But
Okay. Now Bongino is a beta male, alpha male. You know, you got all these things. You know, he is like a big mouth tough guy. And and when he was thanks for the call. Okay. And when he was sitting there, Steve, he looked uncomfortable. He looked nervous, and to me, he looked like he was sweating. This guy's been on TV so many times. You know, he had his own show, and it just was not the Bongino that we've seen over the years. It was a different man, which would fit into your possible. Listen, none of us know, right? We don't know. We're guessing. Everyone's guessing. But those of you who actually saw the interview, even if it was in clips and you saw the video, the body language, I would love to see a body language expert analyze Bongino during that interview, Steve. Oh, you know, I wanted to, just moving on a little bit here, and by the way, if you want to call in about this, you're certainly welcome. I don't know if you'll agree with me on this or not, Steve, but I think Biden's known for a long time he's had prostate cancer, and I think, obviously, he just dropped this to try to get sympathy while he's being exposed by CNN.
Well, when you say he dropped it, I don't think he's been dropping anything lately. I don't think he handles his own advisorship.
You think of the wife, Jill?
The Democrats have been waiting for the right time to release it for maximum, effectiveness for what they're trying to accomplish, which right now is to get the spotlight off the off the president or the ex-president, and that's why they did it, and it's just obvious.
Well, they're getting scared because CNN has turned into a 24-hour who was really running the country network because Biden was out of it. And Tapper's book's out this week.
This whole news release was an attempt to shut everybody up out of sympathy.
Yes, exactly. Because
you don't have to be a genius to figure that out.
Because they're afraid that the truth of who was running the White House and using the auto pen is going to be revealed, so they're trying to get the heat off.
And they're taking day after day horrible beatings. They can't get the spotlight off them.
Yeah.
So this was a way to the former president and put him in a sympathetic light.
It's not going to work.
And ask for mercy.
It's not going to work.
That's the easiest.
First off,
to figure out.
You know, you had prostate cancer years ago, and you got it treated.
Yes.
You got the radiation.
Yes.
And I remember at the time, because we were this was off the air. We didn't talk about this, although I'm sure we mentioned on the air you had prostate cancer, but you had a very mild form of it. You went and got the radiation treatment, and your doctor told you you shouldn't even get it treated. It wasn't needed. It didn't need to be treated. You did it electively, the radiation, right?
No, it was suggested I do it. I had to deal with it. It was going to grow if I didn't.
But what I learned a lot about prostate cancer during that period, right? Because I'm getting older too, so I had to read up on the prostate, and I can't remember the exact number, but it was between 80 and 85%. So I'll round it down to the lower number. When men live over the age of 80 years old, among men who die after age 80, and that could be 80 up to 100, 80% of them have prostate cancer. That doesn't mean they even know about it. It doesn't mean that it's stage 4 or that it's even being treated, okay? But if you live over the age of 80 and you're a man, 80% chance you're going to die with prostate cancer. So having prostate cancer...
Well, first of all, there's the thing that disturbs me about that whole deal, and you're right.
It's no big deal.
I've experienced with prostate cancer. There's no way that a man who has with the finest doctors and gets examined once a year, which the president does, doesn't have a PSA test, and it would advance this far without them knowing about it.
And when you have
doesn't make sense.
And when you're the president, you have a doctor next to you 24 hours a day, and if you've got this stage 4 prostate cancer, how many times a night and day are you peeing? It's got to be like nonstop urination. And the doctor that was with him 24 hours a day would have noticed this. So they've known for a long time about this. It's just an attempt to gain sympathy.
As you know, we have sponsors that do the general testing, blood testing.
Yeah, any lab test now of Boca and Coral
basic
Springs.
Exam is the PSA test.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. And I have them done regularly too.
This long without getting detected. So he's known about it.
Yeah, so the sympathy card isn't going to work. No one's going to have sympathy for him over this. But I'll tell you.
Donald wrote him a sympathy card.
Well, we all got to wish him the best. But what I mean is the sympathy's not going to get the CNN off his back, okay, or the AutoPen corruption to disappear. It's not gonna save him. But I'll tell you who I do have sympathy for, and that's people that are living in pain. I know. Before I met Dr. Appleton, and he treated me with this laser wave pain treatment, I had pains that were just so bad. My arthritis, my knee pain, and he's rid me of pain 7 times. And you don't have to live with pain. You know, the laser wave pain treatment repairs the damage in your body that's causing the pain. That's why when Dr. Appleton treats me, the pain does not return. Give him a call. And remember, there's no injections, no shots, no drugs, no surgery, no downtime, and no appointment necessary. Walk-ins are welcome even on Saturdays with Dr. Appleton. Also, it's a free consultation. If you have x-rays or scans, bring them with you. Dr. Appleton will gladly look at them for you. Here's his number. Give him a call and say bye-bye to your pain. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonCairo.com. We'll be right back. I want to put you on hold for a minute, Steve. Hold on. All right, you there, Steve?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We're back. I'm Brian Craig. Steve Kane is here. So, oh yeah, the big beautiful bill went through the committee, so it's going to go to the House now. So that's a done deal. I told you not to worry about that. People were freaking out about
You say don't worry about it. I don't know what, they did so much fooling around at the end. I don't know what the bill is still as effective as it's supposed to be.
Yes, Trump overloads things so that he can make concessions on things he doesn't even need or want. The big things will be in there. The permanent Trump tax cuts, no tax on tips, no tax. That's no tax on Social Security. My mother's.
I didn't see that. I read the paper this morning.
Yeah, it's in there.
That's the one I'm interested in.
That's in there.
And they had the no tax on tips, but none of the other ones he promised.
No, they'll be in there. Don't you worry. They'll all be in there. And I was talking to my mother over the weekend, and my mother's retired, and she has Social Security, but she works part-time, and she tells me she has to pay taxes on her Social Security. I had no idea. And first of all, that's criminal. They take the money from you your whole life and do whatever they want with it, right? And
I agree with it, but
it's in there.
I think that's the case.
It's going to be in there when they get that.
Somebody will call in. Somebody that has information about the current bill that passed. I think you're going to find the Social Security is not in there.
It will be
anymore.
It will be. It just went through the committee. They have reconciliation and all this stuff. It will be in there. There is no way they're not going to. They're going to have those. Those were campaign promises. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. No tax on Social Security. There's no way it's not going to be in there.
I sure hope you're right.
And the thing about, think about it. I didn't. When you think of tips, we think of tip workers and everything else. And overtime, I didn't even think about this till the other day. I saw a police officer talking, and police officers work a lot of overtime, and they were saying that this is. They said not only are we all going to get a big raise because no taxes on our overtime, but we're going to get a raise without the government having to pay any more money. And I'll tell you another thing about the tax on tips. Now, in the old days, all the tips were under the table because it was cash, right? But everything's electronic now. The restaurants and stuff have to pay taxes on those tips too, not just the worker. So restaurants and the tip workers get a break. And I did not even think about that with police officers. That's a big raise for police officers, and I don't know if firefighters work overtime, but I've never known a police officer who didn't work overtime, and that's massive. And my mother doesn't follow news and politics as much as we do, And she did vote for Trump. First time my mother voted Republican in her whole life, she voted for Trump, and it was over this.
Congratulations.
I know. Never vote. My grandfather was a big Union Democrat, so my mother's dad. So she was never, voted for a Republican, but she did this time. And she was telling about the tax on Social Security was a big part of it. She's like, I work part-time. I'm paying tax on my Social Security. She said, the guy next door, he sits around with his feet up all day, and he pays no taxes on his Social Security because he's not doing anything. And a lot of seniors work, even part-time. So that's I have no doubt in my mind it'll be in there. I must tell you, though, Steve, I was disappointed that Comey didn't get arrested Friday. What about you?
Me?
Yeah. I was very upset that Comey didn't get arrested. I was really.
I thought he was going to get arrested.
I saw when the Secret Service picked him up, he is psychotic, that guy. You could just see it in his eyes.
Oh yeah, he's bad news.
Yeah. All right, let's take some calls.
I am surprised. I mean, you know who's supposed to be prosecuting the case, don't you?
Who?
Judge Janine.
Yes. Well, let me tell you something. The decision not to arrest was okay. I'm glad you brought that up. I knew there was a reason I saved it to talk to you about. Okay. The decision came from the Secret Service. The guy that runs the Secret Service now, the director who made the call, is the guy who was with President Trump when he got shot, right? So he's tight with Trump. I mean, Trump trusts him with his life. He made him the head of the Secret Service. Secret Service is under Homeland Security, which is Kristi Noem. And I saw Kristi Noem on TV Friday saying Comey should be arrested. Judge Janine is the U.S. prosecutor for the District of Columbia. She had been sworn in already. So there's something going on here. The Secret Service director, Kristi Noem, and Judge Janine all said don't arrest Comey. I don't buy that. I don't know what happened, but that was a calculated decision that they made. Why they did it, I don't know.
Hope so.
Well, what my hope is they did it to get some warrants, and they're monitoring his communication to see who he's talking to. Because but that I was really hoping that think about it. If he would have been arrested, Judge Janine would be the prosecutor. Could you imagine, Judge?
That would have been fun to watch.
Oh my goodness, Steve, that would be better than the Johnny Cochran Dream Team Spence days. That would have been one of the most exciting legal cases of the last 50 years. I mean, that would have been amazing. All right, let's go to the phones. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Brian from Deerfield.
Oh, hey, Brian.
To say the least, Brian, I think. Hi, Steve. How are you today? I got to tell you, disappointment is an understatement for that interview. That's the worst thing I've seen on television in a long time.
Absolutely.
These are two guys that I thought were two of the stand-up guys in this administration, and that dog and pony show they put on was a disgrace.
And they're butch, tough, in your face, big mouths, and they both look like scared.
What happened with that? They look like a couple of guys, like you say, didn't want to be there in the first place. But I thought they looked very uncomfortable even interacting with each other.
It was,
I tell you, he's nothing good. That's for sure.
Yeah, are these guys getting along with each other? It didn't look like it.
Well, they didn't. It didn't seem like a. I'm glad. It's interesting you say that. I didn't think about that. They didn't seem like a team.
No, they didn't. They looked like they were worried about what the other guy was going to say on live TV or something. I mean, these guys are supposed to work with each other every day. They're in meetings from 7:30 in the morning to 7:30 in the evening. They don't look like they're comfortable with each other at all,
Yeah.
And I have to tell you something. I never bought the Epstein thing. I don't believe it committed suicide. A guy like that, with all the swagger he has and the ego and that, he's going to go down fighting. He's going to try and win it in the courtroom, or he's going to win it with the leverage he has with those videos of all the rich and powerful who are still on the outside. I never bought that.
Well, I'll give you an example. Okay, like I was talking to somebody over the weekend about P. Diddy, right?
Right.
P. Diddy's a billionaire. He's a billionaire, right?
Yep.
Now, obviously, I don't do any crime or anything because I'm a law-abiding citizen. However, if I were a billionaire and I was facing a life sentence, I would use my billions and go to a non-extradition country. With what he's done, I would have moved. If I were him, I would have bought a mansion next door to Roman Polanski in France and lived out my days, okay? I've talked to a couple people about this, and they said, you don't understand. These guys like P. Diddy, like Epstein, they're so arrogant. Like Weinstein, Weinstein, the Hollywood guy, he could have done the same thing. These guys are so psychotic and crazed and egomaniac. They don't do this kind of stuff. They always think they're going to win in the end. They're nuts.
Well, I thought there was going to be a big win-win on this interview we're getting, but we sure didn't get it.
Well, when Bongino said about the Epstein thing, when Bongino said, I looked at the case file, and that's Chris Wray's case file. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
What do you make of it, caller? What do you make of it?
It's a very good question, Steve. There's something going on there that's really not on the up and up. I don't know, like you said, if they've discovered something that maybe it's better that it doesn't come out, or they're threatened or something. But I don't think it's that. I think maybe you're onto something where they've uncovered a lot of stuff that maybe it's better it doesn't come out. But you know what else they did? They also prepared you and said, oh, and by the way, we won't be doing many interviews in the future either. Well, what's that all about?
And I didn't like the statute of limitations talk. I didn't like that at all. That really...
no, I didn't like that. And now there seems to be something going on with Bondi. I'm not sure the deal is going on with Bondi either. She's part of the team, too.
Well, let me tell you guys, I'm telling you, Steve, Laura Loomer has mobilized a good chunk of the MAGA movement against Pam Bondi. And she's got...
I'm the only one that's getting sick of Laura Loomer.
Nah, I'm never going to say anything negative about Loomer.
I mean, she seems very good. I mean, I watch her work in that, but...
I don't know. She seems to me she gets an undue amount of attention.
She's got a powerful, large following. You know, the thing, I'll say one thing about Loomer, okay? She does not get along with other women. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Pam Bondi, there's that, I will say that.
The thing is, but Trump seems to like her. The last time they kind of went after her, he stood up and said, no, she's still on the team in that.
Yeah.
She goes on all the flights and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's something going on here, and it's very disappointing.
But they could have been,
So,
Steve, when you go back, if you can, and see, you'll see the interview. They'll run it on Fox because it's a Fox interview. They could have been scared of Trump because they haven't delivered, and he's pissed. And he came back from the Middle East pissed. And he could have yelled at him.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times...
They deserve a good yelling at.
You know, a lot of times, you don't want to...
What is it hold on, you said, I don't want to skip over this. You said she hasn't delivered for Trump.
There haven't been any arrests or indictments.
What is she supposed...
Bondi or Kash Patel or Bongino. I thought Bongino was coming in to be... I was expecting Bongino to be like Tom Homan. But Kash Patel's the office guy... And Bongino's the field guy who's putting the handcuffs on Comey and Fannie. And what are we getting? I mean, nothing.
Well, we kind of look like a wimped-out interview. I mean, we really got a bunch of nothing and a bunch of BS. I mean, that's not going to work. And let me tell you, if they don't bring in Colby for some type of indictment or something, people are going to really start to wonder. We're back where we were before.
That's right.
After all this work.
That's right.
And these are two, like I said, two stand-up guys, and they got to do better than that.
Yeah.
Very disappointing.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Good to hear from you. All right. Now, I want to tell people about the free doorbell camera offer from Slomin's. Steve, I love this thing because I don't like to be, when I'm at home, I don't like to be bothered. And I don't like to, we get packages from Amazon and everything. And every time there's movement in the front of my house, I get a notification on my phone and I can see who's there. And it's so great. I never have to get up. And when I see the truck drive off, then I go and get the package. I don't want to interact. I'm relaxing. But it's a great security feature. And, I couldn't believe, Steve, when Malibu was burning, we would see all these fires in front of people's homes. Those videos you saw were taken off the doorbell cameras, and people were getting them off their cell phone. They weren't there during the fire. That was the doorbell camera, and you saw that 4K video. It's amazing. You can get a doorbell camera from Slomin's for free that connects to your cell phone with the installation of your Slomin Shield. Slomin's are also going to give you a free customized home security system and professional installation when you use their low-cost central station monitoring. You get an LED touchscreen, a motion detector, 10 contacts, a lifetime warranty, a backup battery, plus you'll receive a free doorbell camera with the installation of your Slomin Shield. Give them a call right now. 1-833-283-5050. 833-283-5050. We'll be right back. All right, so I'm going to put you on hold. I got to call Youngerman. Hold on. Hey there, hold on. Steve, you there? Steve? Steve, you there?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna conference in William. Hold on. All right, William, we have about 30 seconds.
Okay.
All right, and it's time to check in with William Youngerman from the offices of William Youngerman Incorporated in Boca, as we do each weekday morning at this time, for our first look at gold and the other precious metals for the week. William Youngerman, how are the metals looking?
Metals are looking higher today. The markets Friday closed down on the week to $3,201.70 on gold. That was down $37.80 on Friday. Silver lost 34 cents, closing out the week at $32.26. Platinum down $2 at $9.88. And palladium gained $6, closing out the week at $950. As I said this morning, higher prices on gold on the downgrading by Moody's of our debt for the United States, with the markets moving higher on that news. Gold up $39.30 right now at $3,241 the ounce. Overnight trading in the range of $3,202 to $3,251. Silver up 24 cents right now at $32.50 the ounce. Platinum gaining $3 at $9.91, and palladium down $6 at $9.44. So gold $3,241, not too bad.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we first met you, William Youngerman, right after Hurricane Wilma, which was a very bad hurricane that hit this area, and we were without power for a long time. But even without power, you were open after the hurricane with no power, and people were coming in with their gold and other precious metals to get that much needed money to get them through the post-hurricane when the banks were not open. So, guys,
that's a fact.
Yeah. So I think gold and silver, it's part of your hurricane prep, guys. It really is. All right, William Youngerman opens up at 10 a.m. He's located in Boca at 150 East Palmetto Park Road, on the first floor of the Bank of America building, immediately east of US 1 Federal Highway on the south side of Palmetto Park Road. You can give him a call, toll-free, 800-327-5010, 800-327-5010. And you can find both his address and phone number on his website, williamyoungerman.com. That's williamyoungerman.com. All right, William Youngerman, we'll talk tomorrow.
Okay, have a great day.
All right, take care. A lot of what's going on, Steve, whether it's the interview or this or that or Bondi or everything, the Loomer, all this, we're impatient. We're in power now. We control everything, and we're not seeing movement as fast as we want it. And a lot of it is being impatient, and I get that, and I'm impatient, but if Bongino,
I think you're being over. I think you're, as usual, being overkind. I mean, this is a severe. I didn't even see the interview.
Oh, Steve,
just from listening to the description
it's bad.
of it,
it's bad.
We're kidding ourselves if we say it doesn't mean anything.
Let me tell you, Bongino is a broadcaster, the radio show, podcast, and television show.
Exactly right.
And when you're he's a broadcaster, okay. When you're on the air, we all have problems in our lives, and Steve and I have things that go on all the time. My wife was in the hospital 3 or 4 times over the last few weeks. Okay, but I'm still here on the air. She's not in the hospital now, guys. But she had some health issues. But I'm on the air every day, and I'm not sitting here like looking down. When and you have problems and from time to time, or things happen in our personal lives all the time. But when you're doing it, you do it. And Bongino, because he's the body language, Steve, the looking down during the interview and things, it just was not. It was whatever is going on was upsetting to him to the point that he couldn't cover it. And, I was a regular listener of his.
But you can't just throw that. You can't just say that and then walk away from it. I mean, the fact is, it is true. You're right on the money, and that's very significant. And you can't just disregard it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
especially since there were two of them there.
Yeah. Like sometimes, I don't want. I'm not comparing us to Bongino and Kash Patel. I mean, the stakes are higher with them than with us. But sometimes you or I, one of us will have something going on in our life, and I'll tell you, I got this going on. I need some help today. Or you'll tell me. So, we cover for, these guys weren't covering. And I thought it was interesting because I didn't pick up on that until the one caller said they didn't seem like a team. And I sensed that. So, I hope your theory's right. That they just didn't want to do it because there's some things coming up and that's it. But that's not what it felt. You want to take some more calls, Steve? What do you want to do?
Yes.
All right, let's go. All right, you're on the air. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Morning, Stephen. Brian, it's JD.
Oh, hey, Jay. Hey.
Hey, guys. I disagree with a lot of what I'm hearing today, which is a little abnormal, but
it is abnormal.
I'll just say this, that there's the old world, that we used to live in, but that deep state news cycle, world, is basically got two flat tires and no.
Let me cut you off here. Let me ask you a question. When you say
sure,
you disagree with a lot of what you said, is what you said. What do you mean by that?
This morning. Well, let me see. I think the 2020 election is extremely important. The past proves all the lies to the Democrat voters, which gets us more voters.
And we didn't say it's not important, but we're talking about the issues of today, not 5 years ago.
I know. He asked. I'm just giving that. That's just.
Did you see the interview in question?
I did, and that's another thing that I disagree with. I am in agreement with the one guy that called in. That was more. I mean, look. I look at Bongino and those guys. I look at their body language. I don't see guys that are scared or worried. I'm not worried about either one of them. I see maybe some frustration.
Okay.
Because these guys have to go by rules. They can't go by what their gut is telling them. They have to go by evidence, and I think it sucks for them because they believe exactly what we believe, but they have to be able to prove it in a court of law. And when you have a judge, when you take that in front of a judge that's probably been picked by some psycho left-wing nut.
They don't have to do that when they're not under oath, when they're not testifying at a hearing or a legal hearing.
Judge Janine's the one that's going to go in front of the judge, not them.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm talking about when it gets to court, like say with Comey. I think that I thought he was going to get arrested, and you know what? He still might. But I think maybe what's going on there is a lot of times the feds won't arrest somebody because they've got another case. I mean, they may be working another case. I think they have another case against him. And as far as statute of limitations goes, I mean, that's just a real thing. The standard is 5 years but there are, there's exceptions like for capital crimes, treason, espionage.
What they did, listen, anyone that was involved in J6 or any of those things, or the lawfare against Trump, he was the sitting president of the United States of America. That's treason. That's it.
Exactly.
So this isn't a B&E at the Capitol building. This is treason.
Exactly. And even, cases, the statute of limitations of that is forever. Now, there are other cases where, like, say, for instance, if there's a foreign evidence or if there's a war going on, I mean, they can extend the statute of limitations. But the treason, that's the thing that I've been
I agree with you about Comey. I think Kristi Noem was like, arrest him, and she's in charge of Secret Service. They let him go. I agree with you. There's something else going on with Comey. They made
I think they've got him on something else, and they want him roaming around.
Or they used this incident to get wiretap warrants on all of his devices and everything for him and his family and his daughter and his wife, and to find out who he's talking and communicating with. I think that's very, very possible.
Yeah,
so why are they so uncomfortable?
I think it's because they're just frustrated.
They shouldn't have done the interview.
They can't prove. They can't. Maybe they were told to get out there and do something, but they have to go by what they can prove, not what they. I mean,
who's
the 2020 election? I know it was stolen.
Who told them to do the interview? Is what we're trying to do. Trump, Bondi.
I've got it. Well, I think if Trump knew they were going to do something he didn't want, I mean, Trump is pretty, could easily just say, hey, guys, don't do that interview. But I think they did it on purpose.
What kind of a thing would Trump not want to? Wouldn't that scare you if that was true?
Well, I think if Trump told them not to do it, obviously he didn't because they did do it. So there's the evidence right there that Trump didn't tell them to. But if he was going to,
you don't know that. You don't know that you don't know that Trump didn't do that. They didn't do what Trump didn't want them to do, even though they did the interview.
If Trump told them not to do the interview, would they do the interview?
No.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. What I'm looking at is a possibility of something more along the lines of national security. Because you go back to the 2020 election, Brian. I know you'd gone down on one call not to talk about that. But if you remember J6, the day after, January 7th, okay, at the time, DNA Ratcliffe, he was a DNI at the time for like 6-7 months up until the end of Trump's term. He came out on January 7th on Marina Bartolome and talked about China being in the election.
Yeah.
That was hammer and scorecard.
Yeah,
okay,
but I don't. But we're there's a yeah, but that's not what they were talking very specifically about. They about those involved with January 6th. Listen, I appreciate your call. I went, Steve. I went on Friday and got a haircut. It was the first haircut I'd gotten since before the cruise. So I went like 6 weeks without a haircut, and the same person has been cutting my hair for years. First thing she said is, "Wow, you lost a lot of weight." And that's always good to hear, because, yeah, I have. And it's because of Coastal Weight Loss Secret. And guys and ladies, give them a call. It works. And what blew me away about it, I was very nervous about starting a diet plan because I thought I was going to have to exercise all the time. And I knew I wouldn't keep up with that. I had to do no exercise. I thought I was going to go over there and meet with them and leave with a box of food that tasted awful, that I didn't like eating and had small portions. I'm eating food I would normally eat each and every day. And I'm not taking any prescription medications like Ozempic. And I lost all this weight. And you can too. Also, Steve, we've been getting listeners from all over America who have been calling Coastal Weight Loss Secret. So you don't have to be local here in South Florida. No matter where you're located in this listening audience, Coastal Weight Loss Secret can help you do what they did with me. And that is lose the weight. And when you get on their program, they have coaches over there that stay in touch with you the whole time. In fact, I had a conversation on Friday with my coach over at Coastal Weight Loss Secret, just keeping up with my right now I'm in the maintaining phase, so they're still checking in with me. Did you gain any weight back, Brian? I said no, and they get and they help you along the way, and they're always there for you. Give them a call.
Nice.
It sure is, because you're not on your own. Give them a call. Make sure you tell them you heard about them on the True Oldies channel. 561-247-6300. 561-247-6300. And online, coastalweightlossecret.com. All right, well, that's the news for today. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 a.m. And, you'll see some of the clips of the interview, Steve, and I'm sure they'll rerun them on Fox and talk about them.
See how the mainstream media deals with it.
I think the mainstream media are going to ignore that and try to... MSNBC is going to be dedicated to cancer specialists today to try to help Biden out.
Well, that's my point.
I'm not interested in cancer talk. Okay, I feel bad for the guy. Hopefully, he recovers and the treatment works.
But you don't think if there was something fishy about the Bartolome interview, you don't think the mainstream media would want to point to it?
Maybe. I know Fox is going to cover it because it was their own interview, so they'll hype it. Hopefully, so look for it on Fox today. It was a Fox Business interview. That's all the time we have for today. It's the Steve Kane Show, Florida's longest-running radio show. On the radio since 1977. Steve Kane has been here. I'm Brian Craig. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. All right, guys, listen. If you're new, make sure that you subscribe. All right, you all subscribed? And if you're already subscribed, please like the video. And if you could share it on your socials, that would be great too. And don't forget, if you'd like to support my content, go to mypillow.com. Do your Father's Day shopping. Look at this sale that's going on. Dad would love that cross. Just 20% off with our promo code Kane. That's amazing. What else are some of the great Christmas gifts? The MyPillow slippers, $90 off, just $59.98 with our promo code Kane at checkout. These make great Father's Day gifts. I have the tan moccasin. Steve likes the charcoal, the black. You know, there's also the slip-ons, $90 off. Great deal. Do your Father's Day shopping. It's promo code KANE, K-A-N-E, at mypillow.com. All right, guys, I got to take off. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later today.